Welcome to Getting Back Up, where grief meets growth.
Two men, two fathers, and one shared journey of rebuilding.
We're talking about life after cancer, love, loss, and everything no one tells you.
Well, let's get into it.
Hey, folks, how's everybody doing? I'm David McLean.
And I'm Jamal Jones.
And this is Getting Back Up, Finding Life After Death, which is really more finding life after loss. And I think the example would certainly be someone that we're speaking with today, Melody Rollins Downes.
Yeah. We're going to spend some time talking to Melody, who's been a major part in David's life as he and his late wife, Nalani, kind of navigated their friendship, their marriage, and then ultimately the unfortunate passing. But I think a critical part of this conversation with Melody is her experience and how that actually enabled her to support David and his family as they, lost a major part of their, life. So we'll kick things off and let's introduce Miss Melody Rollins Downes.
Hello, Melody. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, yeah, we're gonna get into it, and maybe some funny stories are gonna come out here. So you do what you want to do and say what you want to say.
Thank you.
Remember, this is recorded in perpetuity, right? So
yes, it's true. It will live forever on the internet, on the ethos. So
I have nothing to hide.
That sounds good. So I think a great place to start is tell us where you grew up, California community. Give us a little about your upbringing.
Sure. I grew up in Northern California in the 70s, 80s, which is, like you, David, different in that we were probably the only Black family in our community at that time. My dad was in the Air Force, and so my parents had been from the South, from Florida, Alabama, and Virginia, and they met in the South when my dad was stationed there, but then he was soon stationed in Marin County. There used to be an Air Force base in Marin called Hamilton. And so we grew up a little granola relative to our Southern roots. Family counseling happened early. My mom was a teacher, ultimately the vice principal at my high school when I graduated. And my dad was a career military. And so he retired. He was older, so he retired when I was still in school. But had a good childhood there. It was only late in life that I, maybe when I went to college, I realized we weren't like living well, that we were actually lower middle class, low middle class. But I didn't know it at the time. So it was
like
it was
most
fun.
of us.
Exactly, like most of us. And that Reaganomics hit hard. We had some tough times there in the late 80s, but it was great. Have an older brother, and my parents got divorced when I was in high school, which was kind of different. After 19 years of marriage. And my dad went and lived in Oakland, in the East Bay, but we didn't see him for a couple of years that much. So I just lived with my mom, and my brother was mostly out of the house by then. So,
did you have a sense or feel the absence of him there? What were kind of the interactions that your mom and dad had when he was gone and you were still with your mom?
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, that was a hard period because I've since learned in counseling, my parents didn't fight in front of us. It didn't seem to have conflict. So then we came home from school one day and he was gone, and he had taken like half of his stuff, like half of our furniture was gone, like exactly half. Like, his clothes were gone. And that was surprising. I think it was surprising to my mother also. I grew up, we never had fast food. We never had soda. Like, I never had food not prepared at home until my dad left. And like that night, there had been a new Burger King, like in our town. And she's like, going to Burger King. And I was like, kind of excited, but sad, excited, but sad. And so that was like the first time we ate out. And then I think because of conflict between them, we didn't really talk to him for 2 years. And so that was hard. And my mother took it hard. So it actually kind of forced me to grow up because she was struggling to like pay the bills, so the lights would
Hmm.
go off, the water would go out. So I'd have to
Hmm.
so I was on her checking account. So I figured out how to like open the bills and write the checks, plan for the groceries and stuff. Because she was, suffering from a lot of depression from that time. And
Oh,
my
wow.
brother was a local rap artist. He rapped with us. Tupac lived with us for a little while. He rapped with him.
Really?
And
Got it.
then, and so he had a rap career, so he wasn't really living at home either. And so kind of it was me. But I was, a go-getter. My mom was very involved in the community, otherwise, very well-respected figure in the school system. And so I got through, I did well in school. She encouraged me to go anywhere. I had a full ride plus a scholarship, plus a stipend at Berkeley. And
Oh,
by then
nice.
I'd been in touch with my dad, and he goes, if you take that, I'll buy you a car also. And then I had mostly full ride at a couple of other top universities, but I wanted to go into the Foreign Service. So I wanted to go to Georgetown because I wanted to be a diplomat. And that was the only place I did not have a full ride. and my mom was like, caution to the wind. She's like, go, we'll figure it out. So I went to Georgetown. And it was interesting because my mother stayed for like 2 weeks. I'm not sure if it was because she didn't have the money to return or if she was just sad about me being away. And she's a teacher, right? So she was out of school anyway. And so she stayed in the area, like some cheap hotel, but she would show up at campus at all times. Like I wouldn't see her. I would be in the student center and run into her. But what she would do is meet people. She'd look for like Black women or anything that she felt like I might get along with. And she'd introduce herself and then talk about me. So one day I'm coming into the student center and she goes, here she comes now. And she's standing next to Nilani Thomas.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And
Nice.
she's like, here she is. And we're like, oh, yeah, I recognized her from the dorm. And she's like, kind of laughing. And my mom's like, you guys are going to get along great. And it was kind of funny. And,
She's the one who set you two up
That's
just to make
hilarious.
sure. Oh, wow. That's
yeah.
funny.
So
That's funny.
it was fun. So it was good for me to go away. Most California kids don't go away to school, but it was fun.
Mm-hmm. And you said it was Foreign Service that initially drew you there. Was there something else about the student body? Was it about the Georgetown Hoyas basketball and them kind of the name at that time? What else was it?
No. For me, they had a school they still have a very renowned school of foreign service and used to train most of the top diplomats. And we had a family friend who had gone, which is why I knew about this program. So I think when he had heard me say I wanted to be a diplomat, he said, well, you have to go here. So I had known that Georgetown from a family friend. I mentioned to my dad because by then, we were having calls. I'd visit every, couple months to his new apartment. And he goes, well, it's a Black school, so that's good because of the basketball team. So a lot of people thought, like Black people thought it was an HBCU. They had just a couple years prior won the championship, in '87, I think.
Oh yeah, because that it was an all Black team, so you could during that time you could definitely
think it's a Black school.
confuse that, yeah, for sure.
So he was fine with it. He's so it's kind of funny. And I mentioned in the beginning, my dad's side is from Virginia, so Fredericksburg, Virginia. So he is one of 12. So I had a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins in Fredericksburg, which is, an hour or so away.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they felt comfortable with that. So that's how I ended up at Georgetown, which was a very important experience for me. Yeah.
And so you kind of had home close to you. If something happened, family wasn't too far away.
That's right. And like Nilani and I spent Thanksgiving there, because it was closer than going back west.
Yeah. And they confused it with Howard, so it was clearly thinking that you had Black family there. So yeah, even on campus, I get it.
That's fine. And culturally, this is about being in a familiar surrounding. The traditions that Jamal and I talk about a lot. You could have Thanksgiving. You weren't too far from home, essentially.
Right.
What about the tradition. It's the same wherever you go. Yeah. You just happen to be on the East Coast now, and you're going to get your sweet potato pie. You're going to get your good food around Thanksgiving. And so Melody's laughing because she and I are very much about sweet potato pie. Isn't that correct, Melody?
Yeah.
Correct. That's correct.
David's been talking this now that we're getting into the holidays. David's been talking a lot about sweet potato pie. So
Can't wait. Yeah, it's my favorite in the world.
Oh, for sure. So tell me, you now you met my future wife, Nalani Thomas. So you're gonna have to tell some stories there. And interestingly, because I know the stories, but we need to hear some of them. Interestingly, Nalani, the only choice she made for school was Georgetown. She was not going to go any other place. She said, "This is the only place I'm going," and that was it.
Wow. I mean, I only applied to 3 or 4 schools, maybe because I had to do the California couple. But that's bold one, yeah. And I can't remember the other school on the East Coast I applied to, but yeah. So she and I met. There was we stayed in the same dorm, which is on like one far side of campus. A lot of the other kids, you were either on the freshman dorm on the east side or the west side. So we were together, along with another good friend of ours, another 2 good friends of ours, and the 4 of us became like a little group. And there was a cafeteria in our dorm, so we spent our time there as well. As one of those opening activities for new freshmen is they had like you could record a video and dance to like music in the cafeteria one day, and so the 4 of us went and did "It Takes Two" by Rob Bass, DJ Easy Rock, and which is a very famous videotape. I don't know if you've seen it, David, but we were like "It Takes Two," and so Nalani and I were the hardcore rap heads, and so the theme
West Coast too, Mel.
West Coast rap, all rap, but West Coast rap, and the theme. For both of us, for a lot of college was if we could drop out and be the female Scoob and Scrap lover for Big Daddy Kane, or for Latifah, we would take a year off. And it was not like we were going to take a year off and tour if we could dance. Neither of us had danced, but we felt like it was something we could do because we were so passionate about the music.
Sure.
And so we dressed the part. We had the hip hop clothes. My first credit card, all $800 was spent in one day at Up Against the Wall, which was like the hip hop clothing.
Oh my gosh. we all have that credit card.
We all have that credit card. I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, you're not going to do this. That I paid off for the next 10 years. Exactly. And she dressed nice. I dressed nice. I think she got more parental support, so her dress nice wasn't as much on her credit cards as mine was. But we dressed real hip hop all the time, and we were very close. We at the time, I actually grew in college, like height wise. So when we were freshmen, we were about the same height. I grew like 3-4 inches in college. And
So 5'3" to like 5'7"
Yes, I'm 5'7" now.
Wow.
But I was closer. I was probably 5'4". She's 5'3". So we were about the same height, and we looked like we're about the same complexion. So people knew us on campus as like the 2 that looked alike. And then, of course, because we're rap heads, they called us Ebony and Mahogany from
boy.
So we had a whole thing. We were like a package deal, which also came to dating. If someone liked her, then their boy had to hang out with me. If someone liked me, then you got to have a guy hang out with her. And, so we got into some trouble that way. Because
David might not want to hear those stories. I don't know.
Well, I've heard most of them.
We dated friends a lot.
We.
So I said we look alike. Our personalities very different. So
yes, they are.
Personalities very different. So to find the guy friend group pair that complimented us, it was funny. But you'd find it a lot. So we did, or just when we go out, like it was kind of like we're together. So either you're going to talk to both of us, or you're going to find someone. So we did that a lot.
Yeah, it's a pair. It's a pair.
Yeah, for sure. But I think what's interesting that shaped who you are and the other women, you all looked out for each other. You in particular looked out for Nalani, and some funny stories that I don't know if you're going to tell or not. But also it shaped your relationship that probably took you all to New York in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And then continue that conversation. Kim, a couple of other people.
Yeah.
So let's, go ahead.
No, it did. I definitely always felt she's quiet. Nani was quiet and more reserved. And because I had grown now, I grew taller, maybe a little bigger. I was also bigger, and I was the more loud, outgoing of the two. And I wouldn't say loud, but like outgoing of the two. And so, don't mess with her. You know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
even if
It
she
was
had a
like
little
big
boyfriend.
sister, big
Yeah, I was the
sister
big
kind of
sister.
kicked in. Yeah.
Don't mess with her. What, like you're in her face about what? Like I heard you did this and you said what? So I was always ready to go, So or I was fiery. I was ready to go.
Yeah.
David knows the spades. There's two guys that we were good friends with on campus for a long time. And Nilani and I were spades partners, and we were the spades champions. So if anybody else tries to come on this podcast and say otherwise, let me be clear. We were and continue to be through her death the spades champion.
Okay. Okay.
Because we played at our reunions, and people know this. And so, but these guys were actually pretty good. Turns out they cheat. We didn't know this because we were naive. But they said, well, we'll have a spades showdown, us two. And instead of money, we'll play for clothes. So strip spades. They should have played it more cool because like in two hands, they'd like run two Bostons. And it was like, how do you like win that fast?
Just tell folk what Bostons are, just so they know.
When you win all of the books and totally shut out the other team in a hand.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, y'all should have picked. You guys should have picked up on that.
It's not. It's very rare because you have to have just lucked upon the right cards and then played them well. But somehow they were winning dramatically. So we played like 500, and like it usually takes. I don't know how many hands. 10 hands, David, to get to 500 if you're lucky.
I think so.
Yeah.
It would like 4 hands. They were at 500, and we're like, well, how is this possible? And so we would take off clothes. Then we're like, all right, let's lower the lights because we're starting to get more naked. They were fully dressed, and they're like, well, if you're uncomfortable, we'll take off our clothes. So they took off their. We're like,
oh man,
slow down. And then Nilani was like, I don't want to take off the last thing. I think we might have been down underwear. And she's like, I don't want to take off. And I'm like, my friend doesn't want to take off her clothes, so you're gonna get both of my last 2 things. And I took off my last 2 things. I'm like, here, now, leave her alone. They're like, no, it's not fair. We got to get both of you. I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, what? And so I'm like, let me go get something from the kitchen. I went and got a knife and we cleared things up, And that became.
I'm sure they were thinking that went south, literally south real quickly.
They had attitude. So it actually didn't clear things up quickly, but it did clear things up. It took a while of threats, and I don't know if one of our roommates came home and there was like 4 naked people fighting with a knife. I don't know, but we got it together.
But and that was the end of that.
And that was the end of that. I'm like, she doesn't want to take off her last items. That's it. Like, it's not going to happen. And so, there was other stories. She had another boyfriend who I didn't like the way he was talking to her sometimes. And so there was a curling iron that may or may not have hit him. So he may or may not have a scar to go for it.
Key takeaway was don't mess with Nilani, but even more than that, don't mess with Melody. So.
That was more known though, so that people knew that. And so they had to come to know that I'm also extending my protection to her.
That's
and
right.
So we moved to New York together, and she, was dating someone during that period, which I kept a very close eye on that situation. And but we lived close to each other, so we were together often in the whole dating world.
So you're in New York. Some of your other crew are also in New York as well. Give me a little glimpse and characterize dating at that time when you guys were here, especially prior to Quintana. I mean, I'm asking you to condense a lot, but yeah.
I mean, it was fun. We, Kim, you mentioned, one of our good friends. She and I were roommates for a while at the beginning, the first year. I think because Nilani was still in DC. And, we'd go out, take pictures of ourselves against the wall, hold our stuff every weekend, and we have a box. And the joke is, like, I have this box of pictures because you'd get them developed. And it says Kim, Melody, and Friends. And it was just me and Kim. The whole box is just me and her getting ready to go out of the club, looking cute. It's hilarious. The whole box is just me and Kim. We did the parties, you know, Nalani and I, we go to all the Black Diamonds parties and dance and, talk to people. We had fun. I worked a lot during that period. I was in investment banking, you know, I worked a lot, but man, I'd get up at 10, party all night.
Oh
And,
boy.
and
So
maybe
wait,
if I had to
so
go
you
back
get
to
off
work,
at 10 p.m.
yeah,
then go
go,
party. Okay.
go party. And more than once, get up at 10 p.m., party till 7, and I got to go back to work at 7.
Wow.
So Kim,
Yeah.
the friend in question, is tall and skinny. Nalani we call her Sleepy Thomas. So she could never stay up super late. So Nalani would be in bed. But Kim could stay up all night, all the time. Kim does not sleep. And to this day, she doesn't sleep. And so we went out one time all night. We had another friend who was at law school at Columbia. So we'd hang out with the law school crowd. And Kim is tall and skinny, and I, you know, like 5'10". I'm, you know, 5'7" and a little more, you know, curvaceous, so to speak. But one day I didn't have time to go home. I had to be on the desk at 7, and so she gave me her shirt, her silk blouse, and the scarf she had on that matched the silk blouse. I was going to wear my same black skirt, and then she took my shirt. We partied. We did not sleep, drinking, partying, and
Wow.
I'm at work. And people are like, "Oh, that shirt is so beautiful. Oh, that scarf looks so good." And I was like, "Don't stop talking about it. Stop talking about it. I don't want to hear it. Just stop. Let me do my work and go. And don't talk loud next to me." You know, it was funny. So we always joke about how we change clothes, like
That's
in the
funny.
cab, so I could go to work. But yeah, it was fun. I had a lot of fun. Met a lot of people that are, you know, friends and acquaintances and part of my network to this day. Interestingly, my husband was not in that same group.
Yeah, I was about to ask, how did you meet him?
He's so I did a lot of mentoring and volunteer work, and so one of the programs I volunteered for was called Fast Track, and it's for high school kids interested in careers in finance. And I knew the people who ran it day to day and some of the lead volunteers, and I was in fixed income markets, and so they said, we do different segments of the markets, and could you come in and do a presentation on fixed income? So I'm like, oh, sure. So I came scheduled. I had like a 45-minute talk. It was going to be followed by Q&A. And there are some mentors who come every week and just sit with the kids and do work with them. And then there are people who come in for special presentations. So one of the mentors who was there every week was my future husband. And so he knew this people, and I'd heard of him maybe because he knew this same organizing people that I was friends with, but I'd never met him. And so I gave my presentation, and I'd mentioned somewhere in there that I played golf because growing up, my dad was a big golf player. So we had to play golf on the weekends and watch golf on TV, like when nobody was watching golf. And so, and I said it came in handy. I had stopped for many years, but it came in handy because now I'm in this career and we play golf. And so he raised his hands with the other kids afterwards, and he's like, "Oh, are you interested in playing golf?" And it was kind of funny because like all the kids were trying to ask questions, and he was like, calling me first. And so I was like, sure. I'm like, oh, he's cute. And so we ended up starting to play golf. I was actually dating someone else at the time who was like very serious about me. I wasn't that serious about him. So it was also coming up on my birthday. And Nalani had to help me through this one because it was going to be, I had my birthday dinner at like some hip restaurant. And was it Hakkasan or one of the ones in the meat packing? I think it was like my 33rd birthday or something. The guy that I was dating, who I didn't really like anymore, but really liked me, he had reserved a table and bought bottle service, which was hard to do, and the bottle service was expensive. But I had invited Quintano and a friend.
Oh.
Because I told the guy, I'm like, yeah, I'm just inviting all my friends. And so at this point, it was mostly girls, but then I'm like, I have another friend coming. But then at the door, they weren't letting in men. So he was like outside for a long time. I'm on the phone. I'm like, well, can you get in? Can you get in? And he couldn't. So we stayed in and partied, and then I went and met up with him after, and we just started dating. I mean, he was like slow, like we just kept playing golf, and I was like, "Is something else happening here or not?" And he's like, "Yeah," and then it proceeded quickly.
So what drew you to him then? What was it about him as you in conversation and hanging out to whatever degree, dinner or nothing at all, just hanging out, watching a movie or whatever it was?
Yeah, it's funny. He's very interesting. in that he was a little different. He was in finance, but a little different than a lot of the finance guys that I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he's more experienced. He had been in 5 years in the Marines before he went back to
Mm-hmm.
college, and
Mm-hmm.
then before he got into finance. And he had more of a presence and a confidence about him. Really liked golf, which kind of reminded me a little bit of like my dad in that, like growing up, he's like an individual sport kind of guy, like introspective type of guy, which was very much like my dad. But when you're out, he could be fun. Like a lot of people think of him as like an extrovert, but he's a big, big introvert who like knows how to behave in an extroverted way when he's in social settings.
Yeah.
And we just had really good conversations, deep conversations, just nonstop. And in fact, I wasn't thinking it was going far. One day I was talking to him and he was saying like men struggle with like, is this the right one? There's always going to be a better one. I'm like, there's always going to be a better one. Cuter, richer, whatever you want. I said, but you just have to make the decision that this is what I want now. Like you can't continue to compare. And somehow like he came back to me the next week. He goes like, that was so deep. And like, it made me like realize I'm letting something important, and I let important things just slip out of my hands because I'm always wondering if there's something better on the horizon.
What did you know about his background as now you guys are starting to get serious about marriage? What did you know about his background growing up?
I knew a lot. We talked a lot, and he took me to Brooklyn to meet his family very soon. It was very early in our dating relationship, in fact. He's from Barbados, had come when he was young, but so he had 2 older sisters and a mother who still lived in Brooklyn. Well, one sister's in Virginia, but who had kids who were like teenagers, late teenagers at the time. So I met them early on. He had a son who was around 8 or 9 at the time. Met him and that son's mother, grandmother. Like I met everybody really quickly, but when we were just dating, and I was like 34, maybe that was my 34th birthday. And I was like, I had a lot of fun relationships, and I didn't want to settle down before. I was pretty serious about my career, as you know, I have been. But I was kind of like, I think I want to settle down because I want a kid. Funny enough, my other friend, Tony, she was a professor, was on sabbatical living with me at the time because she was at a university in Chicago. And so she was in New York hanging out. She liked to have fun too. Supposed to be writing a book. But she's like, this is perfect. She goes, I could be your husband, because she would get up and make coffee for me. I'd come home, she'd have dinner ready, and then we'd go out. She's like, we'll do this forever. And I'm meanwhile sneaking dating this guy. And I'm like, I don't know, I might have found a real husband, Like, it was mad, real mad. She's like, what do you mean? We're doing this together. And I'm like, yeah. And so we talked about getting married. We spent like a Memorial Day, Labor Day weekend together. And we said, we'll get married. And we were starting to plan it. And I felt really good about it. I was telling people, I'm like, I think this is one. I didn't want to tell people I think I'm getting married, but I was like, no, we're pretty serious. I think this is the one. I was planning to go home with him to Barbados for that Christmas. And then I found out I was pregnant. Oh my God. Pregnant because not only was I on birth control pills, I was going to have a myomectomy, meaning have my fibroids removed. So I was on a special pill that makes you prematurely enter menopause, like temporarily enter menopause, so that they can shrink the fibroids and then take surgery. So I was on that, and they told me, you're like infertile, it'll be like you're in menopause. So then I was having trouble, I was cramped, and then I said, they're going to go look at my fibroids. If these things haven't shrunk enough for this surgery, I'm going to be so upset. Will you go with me? He said, I'll go to the appointment. Yeah. We go to the ultrasound. He's holding my hand because I'm like so stressed about these fibroids because they cause me a lot of pain. And the lady's like, well, there's the baby. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, I know. We call the big one the baby. Like, because it was big. I had like 6. One was very big and then small. And she goes, no, the heartbeat. And I'm like, the fibroids don't have a heartbeat. I'm like, but it is big. And they're like, no, that's the baby. And I was like, well, are you talking about my fibroids or the baby? And she goes, no, I'm talking about your baby. The fibroids are over here. And I'm used to seeing them on the ultrasound.
Wow. That's crazy.
What
was his reaction?
He kind of smiled, and outside I was beside myself, like, you, MF, better get rid of this, figure it out. By tomorrow, we need to have this resolved. You find some place, you did this to me. I was beside myself. I'm like,
did this to me?
You're gonna mess up my career, my wedding, all this stuff. And he was like, well, if that's what you want. And he goes, maybe you should think about it. He's like, I think it's kind of cool. And I'm like, what? Cool? And like, that's the type of dude you are? You think this is cool? And then it was funny. I had to cross to go back to my office, and he was going to go, keep going down to go to the train to get back to his office. And we at the crosswalk, and I'm so mad. And we looked down, and there's a $20 bill just like laid out flat at the corner. He's like, look what I found. And I was like, I'm like, that's so weird. He goes, maybe this is a sign. He's like, take it. And so we ruminated on it for a while. And I had a 2-week trip by myself to South Africa planned, and I was leaving like in 5 days.
Oh, wow.
And I was about to start the malaria. Maybe it was like in a week or something. I was about to start the malaria pills.
Sure.
Which you can't take first trimester. And I'm like, I've been planning this trip for so long.
Wow.
I was planning it before like we got serious. So that's why he wasn't coming with me. And I had friends in South Africa. So I was like, I'm still going.
Right.
And he was like, really? You're going to go? I'm like, I'm still going. You think I'm going to stay here just because of you? Anyway.
I want to be with my pregnant girlfriend.
I know. I'm like,
he sealed the deal. He sealed the deal, Jamal. So come on now.
Yeah, why not?
But it was like wine tasting too. But anyway, I went and I said, I'm just going to wear long sleeves. I did all this.
Sip and spit. Sip and spit.
Sip and spit. You think I did? I sipped and spit, and I wore turtlenecks every night on safari, so I wouldn't get a mosquito bite, and gloves, even though it was like 95 degrees. So I wouldn't get a bite. And by the way, I kept saying malaria is curable. You just have to catch it early. Even while pregnant, it's curable. So I was like, I'm just going to wear my long sleeves. And they would all like, ma'am, why are you wearing all that? I'm like, because I'm not taking the pills. And they're like, okay. And I had a great trip other than not swallowing the wine. Came back, then went to Barbados with him and his family as we had been planning for Christmas. And then the funny part was around April, the baby was due in June, around March, I went back to do my presentation on fixed income to the same program, which he continued to be a mentor for. And he had colluded with the people who ran it and all the kids. So all the kids had one rose, but they had it like hidden in their shirt in the back pocket. And so then when I finished, he asked a question. He's like, I have one thing I wanted to ask you. And then all the kids rose up with their one rose and came together. So it was like a big, like 40-person bouquet. And then he got on his knees. He's like, "Oh, no, marry me." And so it was really cute. It was really touching. And we actually have a videotape.
That's more than cute. That's like, movie.
Yeah.
Cute. That's just not regular cute.
Okay, you're right, Jamal. You're right. And I haven't looked at it in a long time, but I do have a videotape somewhere.
Oh, wow.
That's cool.
On VHS or is it on?
No, someone had it on their phone. It was great. Back then, one camera only, it was great.
Oh, right, right.
It was very grainy, but it's on the phone. And then the funniest part is, like, a month later, he's like, well, when should I move in? And I was like, oh, no, because we said I didn't want to get married while I was pregnant. Like, I had this idea that I wanted to wear a cute dress. Not a big wedding, but a cute dress. Like, I liked fashion. And he said, when should I move in? I'm like, oh, I don't live in sin. I'm like, you can't live with me before we get married.
Wait, Melody, come on now.
No, I was very serious. Like, I don't live in sin. I never have, and I never will. I just thought that was crazy that he wanted to live with me. And I was like, it did help me understand why he kept leaving stuff at my house when he'd like spend the night. Because I kept every week I'd have a bag for him. And I'm like, take this back to Brooklyn when you go, like. And that had been going on for like a year.
He didn't even have a drawer?
No.
At this point?
No. And he'd been staying the night for like a year. But like, you take your stuff and go home. And he had a nice rent-controlled apartment in New York, in Brooklyn, which he tried to save, but it's, they were cracking down on those because now it's a market apartment building.
Yeah, it's everything too.
It's everything. So it was kind of funny though. And I said, you can't. And he's like, well, what about when the baby comes? I'm like, I know it's going to be hard. You can come and see us, but you can't. And so he's like, what? And it sounds funny, but I was being serious and I still am. And so he said, well, we should get married before. I'm like, well, I wanted to look cute. And he goes, well, let's just have a little ceremony. And I said, okay. So as you know, David, the wedding was like a month before I was due.
It's beautiful.
Like a week before our birthdays. We had a birthday one day apart. And it was fun. It was funny. We planned it in like 5 weeks. So most of my like friends and long family weren't there. My mother, my father, my brother, not even my brother's wife, because these were like last minute tickets from California we were buying. So they came, and then like my East Coast friends, and obviously Nalani, Kim, and a few others were my bridesmaids. It was on the roof deck of I had a condo. We got a tent, like, because it was early spring. Yeah, it was fun, but it ended up being fun because, and his sister's friend was a caterer. It ended up being fun because of the intimacy of it, and so we had a really good time. I think
that's beautiful.
Yeah,
That's it. I think it all works out, right? Like what
yeah.
my father used to tell me, you make plans and God laughs. So it sounds like a whole lot of your plans.
Sure did.
We never had another wedding. We always said we're gonna have a real wedding later. We never did.
I think you
Um,
needed to. It was
it was
wonderful what
fun.
I remember. Just the intimacy of it. I remember the candles, the way that whole room was lit. Weren't there
Oh,
pictures on the wall? There's some decoration on the
yeah,
wall that just lent
good.
itself to the history of
Yeah,
you two coming together and bringing your families, and that's what I remember, at least.
you're good.
Yeah.
You good memory. I love that. It was
No,
fun. It
Mel,
was fun.
you and Quintano did it right, and I just remember that man beaming, just his face there, and vacations we took together, him shimmying up a coconut tree. The happiest,
We love
cutting
that.
it open and serving it for everybody. And
He
man,
loved
that's
to
that's
serve.
what I remember about
He loved to serve.
Quintano
Yeah.
in particular. So it was some time with him, and in marriage, you the kids, you're understanding we're older, getting married, and so speak about the evolution of your marriage with him, bringing in kids. Just say something about that.
Yeah, it was good. Obviously, the baby came a month later. I think there was a lot happening quickly because he moved in the night of the wedding. Like, so he had his friends with a
Mm-hmm.
U-Haul. Like around midnight, they started
Yeah, the
unloading the
U-Haul.
U-Haul. Like
He was
literally,
waiting for the I
he was,
do.
he was waiting to move into my apartment. I was like, "What's the big deal?" And so there was just a lot quickly. Our mothers were there when the baby was born. His mother
Mm.
was our nanny for many years. She was there, and then I went back to work. And I think at that time I was doing really well in my career, and so I was kind of busy. He's a caretaker, so he was doing a lot at home, and he always had in
Yeah, he
terms
was
of like
great.
keeping the house, keeping things running. We always had a full time nanny, but keeping the things running, being with the kids. But I think it was new to him to be in a long term relationship and me. So when we'd fight
Mm-hmm.
because we're both Tauruses. I'm May 19th. He was May 20th, and there was like no
Another one right
thing.
here.
I like the
We
Taurus.
are the way we are.
We are, but like we love until then. Then it's real hard for anyone to like call the truce or.
Yeah.
And so when we fight. And it would just be about other stuff. And then I think in retrospect, of course, I can't say that he bought into this. We went to counseling sometimes. That it was just hard for him given my career.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, say more about that. Your career versus the
his
path he
career,
was going.
he did well, but he just had some ups and downs in terms of like the business he was in, and he was trying to
Mm-hmm.
buy that business. And
Because
then
you were still in investment banking, and
investment
what
management. Yeah,
area was he in?
he was in investments, but he was in sales and trading, and so like
Okay.
he was at a broker dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Oh yeah.
So he did well for most standards. I made a lot more money than
Mm-hmm.
him, and so by the time we had our second child, a daughter, um, we were like, something's got to give, because I was also traveling more, including internationally. And so he said he would stop working, which I was very happy for. He wanted to do other things in the community. He wanted to start a frozen yogurt store where he could train young people in the neighborhood we lived in, Harlem,
Mm-hmm.
which he did do. He wanted to do other things for the community. He wanted to do real estate things and make some investments. We did some. But I don't, it definitely became a little bit more of like me, like if he did those things, it was like, so how much money do I have to give you for that? And like so I don't know. Sometimes in retrospect, I feel like that probably was hard, just knowing how men like are connected to their role as
Right.
breadwinner
Especially a man from the Caribbean.
from the Caribbean. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And
some
a
people
military
knew.
man at that,
They're
Melody.
military, yeah.
Yeah, and some people knew that. It was funny because sometimes like his Brooklyn friends would come over and be like, "Oh man, you have a nice house." Like I bought our house, I renovated our house. Like everything was I bought. That's I'm also in finance. I'm like so I'm very specific about my my money and my stuff, and so um, um, I think that I think him like struggling with relationships and the communication around that. I think we both had things to learn for sure. My like when I was really frustrated with like say something at work or something going on, I just want to be quiet, not talk about it. I think he thought that was me cutting him out. I think he probably wanted a little more validation from me on a daily basis, and I'm just like, I'm tired, I'm busy, and so like things I've learned, he's learned. So I'd probably say he had more to learn than me, but that's my side of the story. But we had ups and downs. And so Nalani was certainly there during the downs because I'm also back to the kid in college. I wasn't stabbing my husband regularly, but there was definitely moments when I felt like I needed to pull out a knife and like threaten my husband. So Nalani would always bring it back.
Or curling eyelid,
so
whatever,
tended to call her during some of the crisis moments. But like the one thing I always give him credit for is he was never going to get divorced, which scared me because we had like a flimsy prenup, but also comforted me in some ways. Because like someday, like some fights I'd be like, no, I really want a divorce. Other fights I'd be like, I'm glad he's just going to sleep downstairs. And no matter how mad we were, no matter what had gone down, if I had thrown glasses, when I came down to go to work, he always had my coffee cup on the go and my hot breakfast. My kids only had hot breakfast every day of their life until their father passed, and so me too. And so he'd be on the couch, but he would have gotten up and made them breakfast and the coffee and got the kids ready for school. You know what I mean? And so,
So tell me about that when he was diagnosed, because I think David was telling me that he had 2 cancer battles.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
It was hard. He had the Marine mentality, improvise, adapt, overcome all the time. Like he always had motivational quotes. So like everybody loved him for that. And so he was going to do the Marine Corps Marathon. He had done it once before, but he was going to do the Marine Corps Marathon. But he's supposed to be training all summer. We had a lot of people over our country house that summer. And they'd tease him because, he'd either be super in training mode and like super lean, not as lean as David, but closer. And then, or he'd be a little out of training mode and drinking a little too much on the side mood and a little more robust. But obviously always looked in shape because he's a very thick, muscular man. So he's supposed to be training, but he's with barbecuing, drinking. People are like, are you training? He's like, I am. I just get tired. I'm not, I haven't been running as much. So this is August, September. The Marine Corps Marathon is in toward the end of October. And I'm like, are you still doing it? He goes, yeah. So I, bought the family's tickets to DC because we're going to go spend the weekend, take the kids to the African American Museum. It just wasn't looking good. But I'm like, he has his way. He thought maybe something was wrong with his stomach. He'd gone to the doctor a couple of times. They're like, yeah, nothing's wrong. And he's like, I'm just out of shape. It's harder when you're older. And so then he did the marathon. I'm trying to track him. They had to get up like at 5 a.m. So me and the kids were still asleep. So we're trying to track him on the app so we can meet him like at mile 23. It's 3 miles before it ends. Is a common meeting place for that marathon. And I can't, it's like going in and out. I can't quite make it. So then we just go to that spot. I'm like, it's about now, because this is what he said his time would be. He's not there. And then I'm getting like, oh, I guess we missed him. And he's not picking up a phone. And so we're about to leave. And then I see him and he's like really kind of limp walking, like his face looked, and it was the first time I noticed he looked gaunt. So he's always very muscular, but he looked less muscular even. And was kind of like, someone else was helping him. That's how he looked.
Right.
So I'm like, we go over to him and I'm like, do you want to just go? He's like, no, I'm going to finish. So I had on like wedges. It was a very warm day in DC, wedges, like a cute top. a big bag. So I got the kids and all the stuff. And next thing I know, he's basically like hunched all the way over my body. And I walk in my wedges with him for the 3 miles. And then he falls down and he couldn't move. He said he couldn't move. And so we stayed there till like 6 p.m. And, he had finished like at, I don't know, 2. We stayed on this grassy knoll in Arlington,
Wow.
6. Finally, I got a cab driver to help me pick him up to put him in the cab. And we decided to go straight to Union Station. So I stopped at the hotel, grabbed the bags, and we kept going because we were taking the Amtrak. Got on the Amtrak. He slept the whole way, didn't really talk. And then when we got home, like I had to get someone to help me to get him out, all this stuff. And I'm like, I think you should go to the doctor tomorrow. Long story short, it took a couple more weeks. The doctor's like, not sure. He had a problem with his biliary duct on his liver a long time ago, which is why he couldn't get insurance. We couldn't get life insurance on him because they said it's a weird problem. And they said it's either because he had cirrhosis or some genetic disorder or it's precancerous. And so we had been doing testing of him for years since I got married, since Lucas had been born. So it had been like 9 years of testing, but never found anything. He had a stent in this one duct. And so they said, the stent collapsed. So he has to have surgery. I'm like, oh, thank God. And I'm still on text with his old doctor because he thought it was such a confounding case. He had moved to North Carolina and he was like the head of a hospital, but he was very responsive to us. He always loved Quintano. And so I'm like, yeah, we're in the hospital. He goes, oh, it's probably the stent. And I told the guy, I'm like, well, Dr. Bratcher thinks it's the stent. We have stent surgery scheduled. And I said, I was speaking at a conference in Detroit. I said, so I'm going to just go ahead and go to the conference. He says, yeah, definitely go. I go to Detroit. I was the keynote speaker of this large company. And I actually, right before I left, I said, I was looking at all his labs because I always had them send me the copy of the labs, the reports and everything. And I was on his MyChart. And at the very bottom of one of the lab reports, when we got an ultrasound, it says bilateral pleural effusion, which is fluid on the lungs. Mm-hmm. So the doctor's explaining to me that he has the stent and why they're going to do the surgery. I'm like, yeah, but we never had fluid on the lungs from the biliary duct problem. And they're like, there's not fluid on the lungs. I'm like, there's fluid on the lungs. Turns out the way it printed out in a dot matrix like printout, it was the last line. And so it rolled to the third page. And it was just a very thin line on the third page. So they had gotten the 2-page report of the ultrasound and they had not seen that. And then he looked at it. He goes, well, I have to call you back. And I was like, then I left for Detroit. So I was still in New York. And I said, well, I'm going to go to Detroit. Let me know. My speech was like at 8 a.m. in the morning. I got there like at 8 p.m. I was having dinner with people. Then we were at drinks at the bar, drinks. And my phone rang at 10 p.m. It was Dr. whatever, the new doctor. And I'm like, hey, what's up? I says, is the procedure still on? Any problems? He goes, can you talk? And, can you put Quintano on? And I called him because they were only talking to me because I'm pretty on it with the file. So they knew to engage with me. And they're like, you were right. There's something there. We think this may be more than biliary duct issue. In fact, we think on that same report, we think the cloudiness is cancer. And so we're going to do a biopsy in the morning, first thing in the morning. And so I got on like a 6 a.m. flight. I told the conference organizers, I'm like, I'm not speaking. And I got on a 6 a.m. flight to get back to New York in time for the biopsy. And they found out that took a week. So in between that week was Halloween, and Halloween is big in our neighborhood in Harlem. Like 500 kids come. We're one of these places. All the Bronx comes, all of Harlem comes, Upper West Side comes. And our house, we're really big in Halloween. So we had a whole bunch of decorations. We take the day off. We hire 2 people to help us give out candy. We have smoke, and then we have a party in our house. Like it's a big, big deal. And it was like Halloween while we're waiting for this biopsy result. And he was taking a nap. And like, he's super, like, this is a big deal for us. Like, he wasn't working at the time, but like, he would have been at Costco getting more candy. I'm like, this is crazy. So then I'm like, kids are starting to come. He's like, I'll be down in a little. He didn't come down to like 6. They start coming at 4. But it was like the next day they called us in and they're like, yes, it's lung cancer. And we think it's bad. They did a PET scan. And then they're like, it's everywhere. And the pain is that it's all in his bones. He's broken. Several of his ribs are broken. His pelvic bone is broken from deterioration when the cancer eats it away. Every organ on his body had cancer, every organ, except for his brain. And they showed us the picture on the PET scan. It was light up.
So this was undetected all this time. It just metastasized.
And I'm like, that's why he's losing weight. Because then since the marathon, he had lost more and more weight. And so that's how we got. So then they said, then he started having a lot of problems, pain. He couldn't sleep. All this stuff was like happening, like literally that day, all this stuff started happening, or that week. And we kept going to the hospital because they're like, if he stops breathing, if it gets really bad, go to the hospital. We go to the hospital, like emergency room, all hours of the night. And then the doctor's like, he's probably going to die in the next month. And it's the genetic testing to determine what type of lung cancer it is takes like 6 weeks. And he'll die before then. So they're like, you could try chemo, but we usually wouldn't approve chemo for someone as weak as he is right now. Because he got, like, it went from like October 1st to now, this was late November. It was tragic.
Wow.
And then they said, do you want him to go to hospice? I'm like, no. He wants to stay here. He thinks it's going to get better. And so Marine, remember, this is the thing. Marine attitude. He's going to get better. He's just got to push through. And he was like very, very much in pain. He couldn't eat. He was throwing up. There was like, I can't even remember all the symptoms. We did the 1 round of chemo, which was terrible. Like we left the hospital like at 7 p.m. because we had to get this late slot. I was back by 10. They sent us home in the morning. I was back by 9 a.m. again. Like he was like I can't even describe seeing someone like that's dying. Like my 911 call was like, he's literally dying right this second. Can you just come and help me while he dies? Went back to the hospital. Dr. Gomez, the head of oncology and our doctor at Mount Sinai, comes down to me. He's like, just give him these pills. And he had 3 pills in his hand. He's like, give him these pills, 1 a day. I'm like, well, what is this? He's like, this is the new breakthrough drug that's in trial. It's not FDA approved yet. But if he had that type of cancer, which we don't know because the genetic test takes 6 weeks and it's only been 2 weeks or something, this might work because it's showing such promising results in trial. And this is a targeted therapy. You all know there are 2 types of cancer therapy that have shown great promises, immunotherapy and targeted therapy. So this is targeted therapy.
Yeah.
But he had like 3 loose pills. I'm like, well, what is this? And he goes, well, when people die, I ask them to give me their pills because it's $40,000 a month and you can't get insurance to pay for them because it's in trial. And if you're not in the trial, they're not adding people to the trial. So here's some. I'll have more for you in a couple of days. I gave him those 3. I got maybe 4 more. By the second one, so maybe by 5 days, he was Quintana. But just, I was like, what magic beans did you
crazy.
Yeah.
And of course, Mr. I told you so. I told you it was going to be all right. And then it was about to be Christmas, and the family had been planning to go to Barbados. We got him on a plane. He was weak. He had a cyst while we were there that had to pop, something weird. But anyway, but by the time we left Barbados on January 3rd, he was the same person, but still skinny. So he was just eating. And he was totally normal. And they were like, this, don't you know that study? We're still getting pills given to us. And I said, I'll pay for it. I'll just buy it. But my Mount Sinai and Dr. Gomez wrote my insurance company, got on the phone with them, lobbied them, and they agreed to pay for it.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's coming out of trial.
That's great.
And the trial asked to put him in because he had better results than anyone. And guess what? One of the biggest cancer trials in history, and they did not have Black people in it. These trials are not representative of the population and of different minority populations. So they were like, oh, well, we did a commercial for the drug. We did a commercial for the hospital, which we have documented because he was and within a month he gained back the weight. Normal. He's like, I'm normal. This is it. See, this is why you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. So when did you start talking about the kids, about how serious the situation was?
Yeah.
Well, in that 2-week period between like Daddy doesn't seem right after the marathon to he has cancer, I was like, for some reason I wasn't even home that much because I was traveling, and then it was just really fast. Then the nights when my mother-in-law had to stay with us because I was having to go back and forth to the hospital, and we were just like, Daddy's really sick. But it was so sudden. I didn't know what was going on. And it might have been the night before we got the pills that I was like, this is it. And I told Camille, my daughter, her birthday is the beginning of January, as your daughter is, 10 days after your daughter.
Mhm.
I said, you
So
can
the
have
kids are
whatever.
how old? Sorry to interrupt you.
So the
Kids are
kids
how
at
old
this
at this
age,
time?
Camille was going to turn 6.
Hmm.
And so Lucas was still 9,
Mm-hmm.
8, no, 9. And so I said she wanted to have this crazy 6th birthday party with her kindergarten class, and she wanted like a unicorn in the house. She wanted a clown. She wanted a cooking party. She wanted. I'll show you the video, and you can put it on your website. We had all of that, and it was a sleepover for kindergartners, and everybody in the class did it. So I had like
gosh.
30 kindergarten, and then I made it an adult party before, so the adults could leave at 11 and leave their kid.
Mm-hmm.
It was so over the top because I thought he was about to die, and I'm like, I want to distract her, and he was all into it.
Yeah.
It was bananas. But then we knew he was going to get better, but he was still too weak to help at the party. So I had all this craziness. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I hadn't told the kids about it. And then, as you know, what happened is he was totally fine for a year. I started to notice signs of like him forgetting things that he would never forget. Like the time my son took rugby, they had a weird program to start kids early on rugby. And so he wanted to pick him up from rugby on Tuesday night. So the nanny never picked him up from rugby. And it would be like Tuesday at 6:30. And Quintano always picked him up. And Quintano went to all his games, practices, all the things, but rugby was his thing. And he talked to the coach. One night we were eating dinner. I got home like maybe at 8. We're rushing to eat dinner. We're talking. I'm like, why isn't Lucas downstairs? And he's like, I don't know. The nanny had already gone home. Lukey, he didn't come down. Lucas is not home. Not in the house. He's like, at this point, 9.
Oh,
and I was like, Lucas. And we call, or it was 9 or 10, I forget, but nowhere. Called the nanny. I don't know. I left, and Quintano was going to pick him up. I'm like, did you pick him up? He's like, no, I didn't pick him up. Why would I pick Lucas up when we have an idiot? I'm like, because you pick him up on Tuesdays for the last 3 years. He's like, you didn't tell me. And I used to write all the family things every week and my to-do list. He's like, you didn't write on the list. So then Tauruses came out. You didn't put it on the list for today. And I was like, I never put it on the list for Tuesdays because you just do it. His coach
for 3 years.
Yeah.
And he was mad at me.
Man.
I just stopped screaming and called the police. I called, I'm like, come over to my house. My son's been kidnapped. We don't know. Long story short. And, he didn't have a cell phone. He's a little kid. So the police comes over. They got there quick. And they're like, did you go to the school? And I'm like, well, no. Because that's the last place he was at. Because I used to drop him off in the mornings on my way to work. I was like, yeah, let's go to the school. It's got to be locked. Child, I knock. A janitor opens the door. He goes, oh, yeah. Lucas is in the gym playing basketball with one of the janitors. And he said he was waiting for his dad, and he was going to call, because there's like a landline at the front desk. He was going to call, but he just kept playing. Figured dad would get there soon.
Wow.
But that 45 minutes, my whole heart was just on the ground, run over, backwards.
I can imagine.
But anyway, so that was the early sign. He got glaucoma from a guy who goes to every doctor's appointment, all the vision appointments, went from nothing to glaucoma and had glaucoma surgery in 2 months. I'm like, that just doesn't sound normal. He refused being the tourist, refused to get more. He goes, you know how much radiation I've been exposed to already? You want me to have a brain scan? You just don't care about our kids and you just want to keep exposing them to radiation. I'm like, well, you cannot talk to them for the rest of the afternoon. Like, it's not. But they knew me at the hospital really well as the very educated and balanced and pragmatic patient advocate. And so I said, I told Dr. Gomez I'd like to speak to the head of neuro-oncology. And she called me back that day. She called me back and she said, these people take 6 months to get an appointment. She called me back. I said, you've probably heard about my husband. You've seen the commercials. Something's wrong. Okay, we'll bring him in next week. I'll do a test. I went with him. He's a smart guy, so he was doing all the tests, the memory games they do, the touch your nose, walk backwards. And she's like, your husband's very charming and smart. He's passed with flying colors. I'm like, you got to do a harder test. And And then he's like, you're just trying to make stuff up. He goes, you're just on your high horse of trying to like know everything, know more than doctors, and you haven't gone to medical school, so stop trying to find problems. You want me to have problems. Mind you, we had been in a really good place. He really appreciated my advocacy during the prior year and a half. And he said he wouldn't get a brain scan. And then a month later, I said, I'm going to need him to get a brain scan. I threatened him like with something. It was like I was going to tell the kids something. And he said, fine, I'll go. And he had a very rare complication where the cancer cells, it's hard for cancer to metastasize to the leptomeningeal fluids, the fluid that surrounds the brain. You know, meningitis, you think of the fluid, and the fluid that surrounds your spinal cord. There's no food for cancer in there, so it's rare. But there's a form of cancer called leptomeningeal cancer where a cancer mutates and lives in there. So somehow it had mutated before the targeted therapy was in there, and then it just destroys the brain. And it at that point, it had never been cured. The only potential intervention that was close to being developed was at MD Anderson in Texas. I talked to those folks quite a bit. We did the preventive radiology that's supposed to slow it down, but from the time we diagnosed that in May, right before our birthday, he died in July. And his brain was deteriorating the whole time pretty rapidly. So when we talked to the kids, it was probably around May.
But I remember you saying how he took in the information or not. Say a little bit about how he received after the scan and everything that was going on. How did he receive the information that cancer was back at that time?
Yeah, it was hard because he'd fought me 5 months on getting the scan and really getting this diagnosed. I'm like, you don't forget stuff like this. He would go to Costco and forget his card. Like he went to Costco every day. Like, how did your card? How did you not have your card? And he would get lost. So he had gone to a basketball tournament with the kids in New Jersey. And he was the dad for all the kids. So every family, that's why his funeral was so well attended, because every family counted on him to drive all the kids. We had a huge car, cheer them on, coach them, bring them back. He went out there and got lost in Jersey with kids in his car. So one of our really good friends, that was a classmate of his, the dad quickly left whatever he was doing, found him, parked the car, drove him and the kids back, had his wife go get our car. Like he did all these things. I like barely didn't even know what was happening. They solved it without me. And Quintano didn't admit, he just said he was tired, you know? So he was mad. So we had the early diagnosis in the first round, he was so happy that I was asking questions and I had pushed on that it's not the biliary duct, that I had pushed on there's something fluid in his lungs. Why didn't you read the report? He was so happy. I got the pills from Dr. Gomez. I went to every appointment. The 1 or 2 appointments I missed, I wrote out a list of questions. They answered them, wrote them back immediately. Like he knew I was his advocate, but he was now felt like I had probed enough to make them find this bad thing. And he was mad, but by then the deterioration was so bad, he was very sleepy. I don't know if you remember, I called like a pop-up birthday party for our party that year and our birthday that year in May, like 5 days before. So many people came. They didn't know he was sick, just people just came. Like it was people just happened to be free for a good time. But like several times during the party, he went upstairs and was laying down. So I kept going upstairs. I'm like, you know, all our friends are here. And he loved a social event. Like I said, he's an introvert, but if everyone's in the house, he's like the man at the house. And I'm like, everybody's here. He's like, I know, I'm just resting for a minute. So like, it was clear to me that it was getting bad. He didn't want people to see him after that. So most of his friends never saw him after that birthday party. They'd come over and they'd say, Kim and Vic came over to our country house and they're like, we just want to give him this. And I'm like, he says, absolutely no. I had many friends come to the bottom floor and like beg. And he says, no, because he says, I will see them when I'm better. Like I'm going to get better.
Exactly.
And we would sit down with the kids and he'd lean back on the couch and we'd be talking and just say, Daddy's sick. And he'd fall asleep during that. And then he'd pop up because it's the way it wrecks your brain is it makes you very sleepy. And he'd pop up and he'd like, I just got to get back to my training. I just got to get back to my healthy eating. I'm going to start my smoothies tomorrow. I got the trainer coming over. I'm going to work out. I'm going to be fine. He kept saying that. And so when we wanted the nurse to come, we'd say it was his trainer. That was the only way he'd let a nurse come upstairs. We'd say it's his trainer.
The kids are what age at this point?
Camille is 7 and Lucas is 10, about to be 11.
Okay.
Yeah, it was hard because it was happening fast. He was pretending he was going to do things like he always walked Camille to her bus stop. I drove Lucas to his school. So it was like a block away. And I'd get reports from our friends in the neighborhood. Everyone knew my husband. I saw him walking. They kind of were standing on the corner and not moving. So I grabbed Camille and just walked him back home and then walked Camille to the bus stop. And I'd be like, thanks. Like, that's crazy because she's 7, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, oh.
Yeah.
She had just turned 7. And so then it would be, I kind of hid the keys. And he'd say, I was trying to go to Costco. I couldn't find the car keys. And then he just kept saying I was going to get better. We didn't. So his mother moved in, like, you know, she was always with us anyway, but she came to live with us. And we said, we'll take care of him at home. And we'd have the hospice nurse come like once or twice a week to make sure we had the meds and everything was okay, do his physical thing.
Yeah.
But he kept deteriorating. We stopped going to radiation. We could, like, the effort to get him to the hospital for radiation, and the impact was minimal. It didn't seem to be slowing anything down. And it was just too hard to get him there. And so we took care of him. I stopped working. I told my work was very gracious. And we took care of him from early June till he died in mid-July. I went away for a week and a friend got married in the DR. He's like, I want you guys to go. So the kids and I actually went for 3 days to the DR. My mother-in-law stayed with him. It was hard. But I was thinking, like, my heart wasn't in it. My friend was so understanding, and people there that knew, a couple people that knew were so understanding. But I wanted the kids to have a happy place. And funny enough, they just brought that up this week. Like, oh, remember that one resort? It was so cool. It had this, like, they remembered, like, having this fun time.
They need that. Yeah, they need that. They need it. You did too.
The distraction, the diversion.
It was hard. But when we got back, it was getting worse. And so then they're like, well, he needs, you know, once you get the morphine and the oxygen, like, then you need the bed, oxygen. There was another suction thing to clean out, get the congestion out of his mouth or something. Yeah. So then I said, well, we'll put that all in my room. So we had him in there, and my mother-in-law and I would try to get him cleaned up and get the sheet up to, and he was real skinny at this point. He's like just bones because it was really hard to feed him. And so we did get the sheet up to here, and then we put a knit cap on his head because his head was bony, like real bony. A knit cap on his head, and then like shake him and like scream in his ear so his eyes popped open. And then we're like, kids, come say goodbye to daddy before you go to camp. They're going to summer camp. And so they'd come, they'd kiss him, and he'd kind of, his eyes would still be shaking because we just screamed in his ear. and then when it was time to go to bed, before they went to bed, they're like, you know, come say goodnight to dad. So we'd do the same thing, cover him up. But it was deteriorating our ability to clean him, feed him. I couldn't even get the morphine under his tongue. It's hard. These hospice workers know how to do it. The woman who came and saved us, 5 foot maybe, 70s plus Haitian woman who would have him washed and the sheets changed. We had stopped putting on a bottom sheet because it was too hard. We couldn't figure out how to do that. We barely had a top sheet. You know, we couldn't put the diaper on, so we just did the weeby pad as best as we could, which didn't always work. It was a mess. It's very hard.
It's a lot.
I recommend to people not to do at-home hospice unless you have the hospice care. So then they kept saying he'll die in the next day or two. 3 weeks in, we were like, he's not dead. And so, not that we were hoping it, but it was like, but
it takes a toll.
It takes a toll. And then he talks and groans and gurgles during the night. He's at the foot of my bed. My mother-in-law's upstairs in the guest bedroom. I'm in the room. He's at the foot of my bed, gurgling, kicking sporadically. The oxygen machine. And so I'm like, I'm raising the white flag. We got to get around the clock hospice. Yeah. And so by then my sisters-in-law were like staying at the house also. So we did, which was nice because I'd wake up. She wouldn't stay in the room. She wasn't there overnight, but then she'd be there at 7:30. So I'd wake up and leave. She'd clean him up, do all the things, give him the medicine, give him the food squeezy thing. We'd be downstairs having coffee and breakfast. And it was a lovely 3 days. And then like probably on the third day of having this woman, she says, come upstairs, you guys, come upstairs. And we're like, why? I'm like, this is your time. I'm supposed to be eating drinking my coffee. You needed help changing them, you know. And she's like, no, it's time. And I was like, time for what? She goes, it's time. And this woman, like deep soulful, spiritual connection. She's like, he's going now. Say something. Say what you want to say. You start. And I was like, couldn't get anything out, but my sisters-in-law did. My mother-in-law did. Everybody hold hands, and she prayed half English, half Creole. And she said, let's breathe in together. And like, he kind of breathed, and then his last breath. She timed it. And I was happy because watching him suffer, he was long since not able to communicate or anything. Other than he would kind of hit you when you try to change him. So I was like, he's mad at me still, you know? And so that's how it happened.
Wow. Yeah, man. So that's why we brought Melody in. That was something else.
That was meant like, so I could see why she's been such a huge part of your community, your family, your network. I didn't realize, I mean, I knew you talked about how close her and Nalani are and how close they've been, but I didn't realize it's good hearing the story from her perspective, right? I mean, obviously, like you've told the story as much as you've known, but to hear her talk about their college experience and how they connected and what that bond was like and how they vibed and, you know, the dance crew type of stuff they were doing and the Cali love.
They wanted to be video vixens.
That was cool.
They wanted it.
That was pretty cool. So I enjoyed hearing that, man. That was a good.
Yeah. And man, it was just so rich that we're going to do another chapter, man. We're going to do episode 2 on this. Yeah,
because she only touched, I mean, we talked a lot about her story, and I think that was important.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't think we'd go so deep, but it was like, man, I started vibing with her on the 90s music and, you know, and Tupac verses.
Yeah.
And that was cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was like, that whole her knowing and being a connection to Tupac and, but then also like she started getting into a lot of the storyline that you talked about of like that period of time when you met Nalani,
right?
And how, and same for her, she was meeting her late husband and getting into the early discussions around his health.
Yeah.
And these health scares they dealt with. I didn't, even talking, I didn't realize that he had dealt with 2 cancer battles, and this one was the ultimately a recurrence.
Yeah.
Right? So
yeah,
man, we're bringing her back. That's gonna be
into it deep.
Yeah.
Goes into it deeply in this next episode. So part 2 of our conversation with Melody Rollins Downes.
Yeah,
it's coming out soon.
Yep. Join us again on Getting Back Up, Finding Life After Death.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Getting Back Up, Finding Life After Death. If something in today's episode spoke to you, pass it on, because somebody out there needs to hear it.
For sure. We're on all the social mausoleums, so follow us on Instagram, Threads, TikTok. Mostly it will be in the form of Get Back Up Podcast.
And be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast.
And remember, getting knocked down is part of life.
But getting back up, that's how we live.
We'll see y'all next time.